Hello, friend, and welcome back to episode 12 of my 31-day challenge, where I'm answering your questions about creating a career or a business that you love. In today's episode, I'm going to be deep diving into a very, very specific question that someone has sent. This is one of the kind of more longer questions, which I absolutely love because it's great to have loads more context and get a real understanding of where someone's coming from with their question. But essentially, this question boils down to, should we build a bespoke software that we can then sell to clients in an industry? Or should we offer a more tried and trusted, already existing kind of service to clients? So I'll be diving into that in this episode. If you've got a question, please send them to me, Alex Makes VR, on all of the social medias. If you've got a longer question like this one is today, please send me an email, alexmakesvr@gmail.com. And if you want reminding daily when these episodes go live, you can subscribe to the newsletter at alexmakesvr.com. I send out a daily reminder when they go live and also a bit of a recap about what I talk about in the episode. So let me read you a little bit of this email, but I'm not going to go into too much detail, and I might miss out a couple of things because I want to be able to keep this person anonymous. But essentially, they're saying that they work in a small startup that has a really big problem with selling their VR product. They offer custom VR walkthroughs for home builders. So home builders that are building new houses. So they're basically building a software that offers these walkthroughs of houses that don't exist yet. And what they're saying is they're really concerned because it doesn't seem like it's very scalable or profitable to be building this, because essentially you'd have to build a new walkthrough for every single new kind of house. They're also saying that there's no proof that clients even want this because they've not secured any deals, they've not received any money, and they've also got no investors. They're just bootstrapping like classic startup style. But that is putting a massive strain on the team. And so they are asking in this email whether it would be smarter to switch to a more kind of tried and true service like Matterport or something where it's like traditional virtual tours for existing properties. So that is kind of like the crux of the email. They also go on to ask, is it a good idea for a small startup to be pitching expensive custom services to non-tech industries? Or would it be smarter to target businesses that are already kind of involved in VR? Okay, so there's a lot that goes into this, and what this boils down to is it doesn't sound like there's a very good product market fit, which if you're not kind of like aware of like what that term means, generally, the first thing that you need to do when you start a business is you need to make sure, especially if it's a product-based business, you need to make sure that there is a need for that product. You need to check the market. You need to check that your product fits in the market, hence product market fit. What that means is you need to check that your product is solving an actual problem. And the way that you check if it is solving a problem is talking to the customers that essentially you're building that product for. And not only do you need to check whether your product is solving their problem, but it's solving their problem in such a new and innovative way that they are willing to pay more or pay extra or pay full stop to solve that problem. It needs to be that much of a problem. So the key thing that I'm hearing here is that it doesn't sound to me like there's been enough research and there's been enough conversations with these custom home builders to actually ascertain whether or not they even want a product like this. I'm sure that from kind of what I know, which is not a lot about that kind of industry, but from what I know is that for people that buy houses without kind of seeing them. Like if you kind of buy a home based on just like a plot of land that will eventually become a house, if you're buying it before it's built, generally speaking, you will either go to like a show, like a marketing suite, which is basically like showing you what the house will look like when it's built, or if you're even earlier than that, then you will buy based on concept art and floor plans and that kind of thing, and maybe like a 3D kind of rendering. So I understand like logically why the CEO of this company might think that it's a good idea to build these kind of immersive walkthroughs, because that to me sounds like, yeah, I mean, that would be really great if you didn't have like the marketing suite already, to be able to get someone to put a headset on and actually feel like they're in the house and get a sense of the space and the the kind of feel for that house before it even exists. That sounds like it should be a good idea, but it doesn't sound like the company has kind of tested the theory that this is actually something that they want. And not only does this company need to test whether or not the company, the industry wants that, but they also need to check whether they'd be willing to part with their money. So a brilliant book that is one of my favourite business books ever is called Will It Fly? And it's by a brilliant entrepreneur called Pat Flynn, who, I mean, he's just brilliant. And if you don't know him, I would highly recommend that you follow him. He's got a brilliant business podcast called The Smart Passive Income, which, deep dives into every possible facet of business, but really inspiring guy. The book, Will It Fly, is all about testing the theory that your product will sell before you actually build it. So this is, especially for a startup, this is so important. So many people build something because they go, oh yeah, this is a good idea. They build it and then they're like, why is no one buying my thing? Like, why is no one buying my product? And it's because they didn't like check with their potential audience first that it was actually a good idea. So, to answer the question, like, should this company be repositioning and doing tried and true kind of virtual tours instead? I would say it depends on the aspirations of the company, because it sounds very much to me like this startup is trying to be a product company, but it's actually a service-based company, in which case, yes, 100% you should be actually targeting just real estate agents and the industry where like houses already exist, and go down the virtual tour route, because 100% that is tried and tested. There is a need for it. The market is already educated about not only the benefits of virtual tours, but they also understand how to distribute that properly and how to embed that within their marketing and sales themselves, and don't need hand-holding. So that's 100%. But if the company's aspirations is to be scalable and be a product-based business, I think you need to think about, well, firstly, you need to have conversations with that industry. If you're really set on going after that particular kind of client, you need to have a sit down and understand. It comes back to like so many of the previous episodes I've talked about this. You have to listen. You have to listen to your customer. You have to listen to what they're after. What are their pain points? What are their problems? Because to me, this sounds like you're assuming that they have a problem selling these houses. And I mean, I don't know much about that world, but I don't know whether that's the case. And maybe it will look different in COVID times, but it doesn't strike me as being particularly like, I don't think like a virtual walkthrough of a house that's not been built adds any more value than being able to visit the marketing suite. The only value it adds is that you could do it completely remotely, and it is more scalable. But in order for that to be the case, they would have to invest in the infrastructure to be able to send out headsets to every potential customer of theirs. So it's kind of like a bit of a chain event, if you will. So not only will they have to invest in this custom product, which will, unless you can make it, I mean, that in itself is not scalable because it's custom, right? It's custom built every time. So that's service. So you might as well, if you're going to do service, you might as well do service for an industry that already has proven that it wants it and that it will pay for it. If you want to go down the product route, you need to be a bit more clever with looking at how you make that product and that software scalable. So, for example, Matterport kind of does exactly that for an industry that obviously is a slightly different industry, but that's kind of what they did for the virtual tour industry. It's like Matterport is a scalable software that allows other people to build on top of it. So instead of going direct to the customer, maybe your customers for this product is not, the customer is not the home builder. The customer is the VR developer or the 3D artist that would build on top of it and use it. Maybe it's like a product where, you know, it's like super simple 3D. Maybe it's like maybe it's making kind of like, it's like a really simple way of creating 3D visualizations for houses or any kind of building. And maybe it's something more along the lines of like widening the kind of audience. It's more about like taking a blueprint and turning it into a 3D visualization. So maybe there's a way that the software automatically interprets a blueprint and creates a VR 3D kind of environment from the blueprint. That becomes scalable. Again, you'd have to double check that was interesting to the client and that they'd be willing to pay for that, or you're going directly to either kind of people that already work directly with that industry. So maybe your client isn't the home builder, maybe your client is the architect. Okay, so like maybe that's a way to go, because that potentially could be interesting. If an architect is trying to win business with a home builder, and they're kind of pitching their vision for what these houses will look like, maybe they want a software that interprets their blueprints into 3D visualizations. But again, you've got to be careful, because as soon as you start doing custom stuff, that is not scalable. So you need to decide, or your CEO needs to decide, what is the goal of the company? It doesn't sound like it sounds a bit kind of classic startup, just like, just kind of hustle and grind and pulling something together without really thinking it through. So I think those are a few things that I would kind of highlight as being things you need to think about. So to kind of try and recap, to put that into a nice little kind of sign it off with a bow, I guess. Number one, will it fly? The idea of actually going to your end customer and testing whether or not they want your product. It's a little bit like, I would say that I've fallen into this trap of, it's not a trap because my intention was never to sell the piece, but creating Key to Like, which was a VR drama, I did that in a bubble without ever checking what the landscape looked like for VR dramas. I did it without checking whether audiences actually wanted VR drama. I did it without checking whether VR arcades or VR cinemas or film festivals were interested in VR dramas. So it would be really stupid of me to have kind of like built Key to Like, to have created that and then gone on to be really pissed off and annoyed when people didn't want to pay attention, or people didn't want to buy it for their VR arcade, or it wasn't the kind of content that someone wanted to license for a telecom company. Like it would have been really stupid of me if I had thought that. I mean, I didn't, because that was never the intention with Key to Like, but do you know what I mean? Like if I wanted to create a piece now that I could license, a piece of VR entertainment that I could license worldwide, I would do my research first. I would reach out to all of the VR arcades that are active. I mean, right now, obviously, that's not many, but, when they start opening up again, I would go to all those VR arcades. I would say, tell me, like, what are the best selling, what are the kind of, like, the best titles at your arcade? What are the things that get played or experienced over and over again? Chances are that will come down to either horror films, if it's in the VR cinema and the content realm, like horror or travel related content, or some kind of like game like Beat Saber, which is like all to do, it's like gamified rhythm. Those are most likely like the kind of highest profile genres, right? So if I wanted to make money and make something that was scalable and that I could license, I would get that information first, and now I'm going to reverse engineer my product. So now, if I wanted to do that, I'm now going to go and make a VR horror, because I know I've already tested. I already know that the audience is there. I already know that that's what people are going to want. I already know that, you know, if VR horror is one of the number one genres on Steam, if I created that, I could probably make money selling it on the store. So it's all about understanding your audience. And it's all about, obviously, in that example, that's if I wanted to create something for the sake of A, either getting loads of eyeballs on it, or B, you know, wanting to make money from it, which is exactly what you're doing, because that's what a startup is. That's what a business is. You can't, as much as it's kind of romanticized, this idea of like, you know, starving artists, like Silicon Valley style startup, where you're just like hustling and everyone's like grubby and like doesn't sleep because they just hustle so hard. Like, that's so romanticized and it's so boring. It's such a stupid narrative to follow. Like, it's not glamorous living on someone's sofa whilst you hustle away at an idea that's so deeply understood. It's like, yeah, it's not deeply understood. It's that you didn't take the time to go and ask the person that you're trying to sell it to if they actually wanted it, you know? So, okay, I'm getting off my high horse now. So yeah, those were the things. And if you are going to be a service-based company, so deciding whether you want to be product or service-based, and then if you want to be service-based, that's fine. But yeah, go into a market that actually wants your services. So definitely, if you're looking at the kind of the real estate industry, going for something like the real estate market that already knows that they want virtual tours. There's proven distribution methods, so choose that. And then the kind of the last piece of the puzzle. Oh, yes, that's it. If you've decided, okay, no, I want to be product based, but hang on, wait, thought trail. Where were you? Trail, bringing it back. I think it's the first time this has happened. I do this a lot in life, but I feel like I've been quite good on the podcast so far at not losing my trail of thought. But let me pull it back. Oh, yes. Redefining who your target audience is. So if you're really set on this idea that you've got, and I do think that this startup needs to really reconsider what the product actually is in the first place and what problem it's solving. But once you've done that, maybe it's about going, okay, well, if home builders aren't buying this product, then it probably means that they're not your actual customer. The customer might be an architect, or it might be another VR developer, or like, you know, going after people that already offer virtual tours, but it's kind of, they want an extra kind of advantage. They want to be extra innovative. They want this extra service that they can offer. So go to people that already service your kind of in the industry that you're targeting, if that makes sense. Okay. That was a good one. It was good to get into the weeds on something like that. So there's a couple more of those questions coming up in the next couple of weeks, where I deep dive into a specific question like that. So if you like this episode, if you got value from that, if you want me to do more of those kind of really in-depth and very specific examples answering those kind of questions, let me know. I would love to hear from you. You can send me a message across any of the social medias, Alex Makes VR. You can hit me up on email, alexmakesvr@gmail.com. And if you want reminding daily when these episodes go live and get a recap of what I talk about in the episode, you can sign up to the newsletter at alexmakesvr.com. I'm out of breath. Let's have a look at the step count. 13,000. Boom, baby. This is my third episode that I've recorded, hence being slightly out of breath. I'm going to love you and leave you wherever you are in the world. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I will speak to you tomorrow.